Welcome to the People's Podcast, an employer's resource by Group Management Services. I'm your host, Alyse Kimble.
This podcast does not constitute legal or financial advice. Its accuracy, completeness, or adequacy is not guaranteed. Use the information at your own risk. Consult an attorney or financial advisor before taking any action.
Hello and welcome back to the People's Podcast here at GMS. My name is Alyse Kimble, the Training Development Manager here at GMS, and I am here with Sam Siegel, our Senior Payroll Specialist here at GMS. And welcome, Sam.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. We are having you here to talk about payroll, right? Crazy. But I love it. I want kind of our listeners to understand a little bit about our payroll division here at GMS before we get started. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what our payroll specialists do. So what is kind of like the typical day-to-day for our payroll specialists here at GMS? Like, what are you fielding calls? Are you processing payroll? What does like a typical week look like, I guess?
So it can be a little bit of everything. Some of it depends on our clients' payroll schedules.
Sure.
So, you have your weekly or biweekly that pretty much always run same days pretty consistently, but then you get the wrench of like a semi-monthly where the pay date falls on a Thursday, goofy things like that can kind of throw a wrench in the schedule of any given day or week. Typically, typical morning come in, you look at emails that came in after you left for the day because you would be shocked. Sometimes clients are doing payroll at midnight. And sometimes you want to respond with, can you go take a nap or something? Because why were you doing payroll? Why were you doing payroll at midnight?
Oh, poor things.
And then usually just going through and looking at payrolls that came through overnight, and just trying to get through the stuff that is the most important. A lot of the times it's kind of almost like triage in an ER.
Yeah.
And you might have 15 clients that all need you at once. So then you have to sit there and prioritize, okay, what pay date comes first?
Yep.
Is something absolutely on fire? Did somebody overpay somebody by $30,000 or something crazy that that has to take my attention first?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So it's definitely like first thing in the morning going through and trying to make sure you really just prioritize and put everything in order. And then it really just depends on the needs of the client. Mm-hmm. There might be a day where I feel like I spend all day on the phone. And then there might be a day where I am just knee deep in emails. And it just depends on what the clients are doing on any given day. Typically Wednesday is our craziest day. That's just Friday pay dates.
Right.
So everybody's running on Wednesdays.
Yep.
But honestly, it really, sometimes you just get that day where you don't expect it and you come in and it's everybody ran their payroll wrong this week. And you're just like, okay, let's one thing at a time. We're going to figure it out and
let's prioritize this.
Yeah, and fix it. And it really, most of the time the clients do really well. The big thing is just say something. If something's wrong, the sooner you tell me, the better odds I can fix it. Right. And it not be a giant mess for you.
Right, absolutely. I'm just trying to figure out, how do I win the payroll lottery of getting $30,000 in one pay period?
Right? And it's so crazy that, sometimes it's they don't realize it because we do have clients that will pay a $30,000 commission, bonus.
Yeah.
They just happen to put it on the wrong employee. So it didn't flag for us because it's normal to them.
Right.
And it didn't flag to them because it was probably, I've seen it where they have the same last name and they're siblings. Or they happen to be one line off on the timesheet. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those, even the client sometimes doesn't realize it because in their review, they just see that dollar amount with a name kind of similar around it. And they don't realize it until the employee usually says something and goes, hey, why did I get paid $30,000? Yeah.
I was going to tell you guys this, but maybe I should just for this reason. So that's crazy. Talk about a horror story, right? Yeah. For a business owner. So let's talk a little bit about, I think the other misconception is for a lot of our, at least from a sales standpoint, a lot of our clients are like, well, that's what I do. What am I going to do? I process the payroll here. And I definitely still think that is so needed at the business. We're never going to take that away from that person doing it. Yeah. We're just really here to supplement that. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Maybe ease their minds a little bit.
So at the end of the day, we still want them to have that control. Mm-hmm. We're not on site. So I don't know that this employee worked 80 hours. I don't know that this employee worked 60 hours. We're not there. We have no way to verify hours. We also want them to make sure that people are being paid correctly.
Yeah.
I don't know that you had a conversation with this employee that, they were due a pay raise in June. Hey, we forgot to give that to you. We're going to give it to you now. We're going to pay you retro pay. I don't know that if they don't tell me.
Right.
So it's one of those things where we want them to maintain that control. We're here to support them. So it's one of those things, communication is huge. If you tell me, hey, I just now realized that we forgot to pay this employee, that pay raise, or sometimes it's something as simple as they didn't know that they had to pay overtime.
Wow.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Where you don't think about it, but we're here where when I'm reviewing your payroll, I'm looking for major errors. So if I see somebody has 84 regular hours on a biweekly payroll, I'm going to say, hey, that looks a little weird. Should that be overtime? Was it keyed wrong? Whatever the case may be. That's more what I'm here to do, is support, look for major errors, help you work your way through the system, because it is, at the end of the day, system errors happen. It's also, if you're not used to it, sometimes clients just don't realize the functionality that's available to them.
Yeah.
So they're, I need it to do this, and it's 3 clicks, but they have no idea because they just don't know. I stare at it all day, every day. So I'm like, hey, yeah.
There's a better way to do this. Let me show you.
Let's make your life a little bit easier. And they're like,
that.
oh my goodness, wait, it's been that easy the whole time? And I'm like, yeah. Hey, you know what? At least you know now.
Right. Absolutely. And I love that. It's just that additional level of support when you need it, or like when you see something like as a trend, or hey, there's an easier way to do this. Maybe we should teach you that way. And if this works for you, cool. And I love that. I think that it's such a value add to a relationship, not taking anything away, very much adding to it.
Yeah.
So that's a really great thing. I think for a lot of people within companies who are like, that's kind of what I do. And no, this is definitely just a friend to you now that you're going to have moving forward, for sure.
I'm your new best friend is sometimes what I tell clients. I'm like, you will probably talk to me more than you talk to anybody else, whether you want to or not. I'm really sorry, but I'm probably your new best friend.
Do you get like Christmas cards or like?
We usually, yeah. So it depends on the client. There's some clients that you have that relationship with where it's, I do have clients I talk to pretty much every day.
Wow.
And they're just more complex payrolls. They, I have some that their employees just are really bad at turning in their time cards. So pretty much every day they're like, so I need another batch. So-and-so forgot to turn in their time card, and that kind of stuff, that it's just, you build that relationship because you talk to them
all the
every
time.
single day.
Yeah, all the time. Absolutely. Well, how many years have you been doing payroll?
So actually, just my time here at GMS. So I'm at about 3.5 years, a little over 3 years.
That's awesome.
I did way back in the day. My dad owned his own company. Again, small company. And I did help him with his payroll, but it was 2 people.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So a little different than what you're doing now, where you have like probably hundreds of clients, for sure.
And it was also, we won't talk about how long ago, but it was pre-technological revolution kind of.
Yep.
Where, we had dial-up internet, if anyone remembers that noise.
Yes, it sounded like you were killing a robot every time you logged in. So
it was angry the whole time.
Very angry, for sure. Maybe not a lot of our listeners remember that time, but I certainly do, for sure. So let's get into today's topic, which is really payroll horror stories. And I hate that we have to call it horror stories, but I'm sure you've seen so many. So many. So I think the first question to kind of get started into it is, why is payroll so maybe difficult or strenuous for a lot of clients? They're like, oh God, I have to process payroll. Like, why do we feel that way?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is there's so many different factors that feed into it. And a lot of the times these companies, they don't have someone who specifically knows just payroll. Yeah. It's somebody who once a week goes, oh shoot, I got to run payroll. They don't do it all day, every day.
Yeah.
So their goal is basically just get my employees paid. They don't necessarily know the laws, the compliance, and there's so many layered pieces to it, from a federal, from a state, from a local. And it's very easy to get tripped up and not realize, I mean, you don't realize it until it's a problem sometimes. And that's where we come in and we can, we're looking at those things and just being like, hey, this doesn't look right. I would recommend this. And at the end of the day, it's still up to the client if they choose to do it or not. But we do at least want to be that partner to say, hey, this is what I would recommend. And then leave it up to them. Most of the time, they're very receptive and they're like, I never even realized that.
Yeah.
And so, it's something that can save them a lot of time and a lot of money.
Absolutely. And like, think about like just even like you mentioned, like the layers associated to even just taxes. Crazy. So that is really just one small piece of payroll. So what are some of the common pitfalls that small, medium-sized businesses kind of fall into when it comes to maybe payroll errors or things that you're seeing often?
So it's a couple of different things, but a lot of the times it's not one big error. Don't get me wrong, sometimes there is a glaring huge error, but a lot of the times it's just little things that add up over time.
Yeah.
That they may not realize, and it's simple things to get caught up on, but the downside to that is the Department of Labor and those kind of agencies, they don't really care if you don't know. At the end of the day, if you're not compliant, you're not compliant.
Yeah.
They don't care why. They don't care if it's just that you don't know. They're gonna show up, and then it can very quickly add up fees and penalties and back
Audits.
pay. Yeah. And then, they're not just gonna come in and look at that one employee or that one payroll. They're gonna look at everything, and they may find stuff you didn't even know was a problem purely because you didn't know.
Right.
So that's also where we come in and we can be like, we really think you should be doing this instead. And I have no problem telling a client, hey, I'm just trying to keep the Department of Labor from showing up at your door. And sometimes they're like, thank you for just saying that.
Yeah.
It's, at the end of the day, I would rather be honest and save my client a lot of headache down the road. And sometimes it makes me the bad guy, but I'd rather be the bad guy now than the Department of Labor show up and be the bad guy later. And
Well, then you're still the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't you not tell me this, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I think that is important to know too. Like as a business owner, like you didn't go into business to do taxes or to worry about like payroll compliance. You went into business because you were probably very good at something that you were doing. Maybe that's HVAC or plumbing or whatever it is, manufacturing. So, we talked to a couple of CPAs during the podcast, and they always say, offload the things that you're not good at, right?
Yep.
Give them to the people who actually are doing these on a day-to-day basis and much better at these things. So what strategies or solutions do you find that are maybe most effective in preventing maybe payroll errors from happening?
So again, communication is huge. Sometimes it seems overwhelming to a client. I might be throwing so much information at you.
Yep.
But it can be something as simple as us sending a mass email. There's constantly changing things, and sometimes if it's going to, impact clients, we will do an email blast. Or if there's something that's very like niche and very specific to a set of clients, we might, it's prevailing wage clients. We might just say, okay, everyone find your prevailing wage clients, send out this email about this piece that changed.
Right.
So it's something where we try to communicate, we try to educate both the clients and ourselves. We have biweekly full team meetings, we have weekly with our individual managers, basically just to make sure we're keeping up and we're getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
That way we can then share that with the clients and just keep them as up to date as possible, because it's kind of amazing how quickly things change. And, it's usually multiple pieces too. It's sometimes something that we team up with the account managers or we team up with time and attendance. It's not always just like an internalized payroll process. So it's something that's huge with the communication, both internally with GMS and then also with our clients.
That's really great that you have like that internal communication too, because I mean, if their payroll person missed the email, but they're also getting it from the HR standpoint as well. And I love that. I think that's really great. So you can make sure you're constantly like in communication with any new updates or changes. And guys, those happen all the time. And it's not just from a federal level, it's from a state and local level. And there's constantly things changing, compliance things, laws, taxes, so many different things. So having a partner like that would be just some breath of fresh air, for sure. Some weight off your shoulders. Could you please share maybe a payroll horror story? We talked about the $30,000 mispay, so that was one. But maybe another one that you've experienced or seen happen to a client that is kind of like let's not do this in the future kind of thing, right?
Yeah, so I would say so we have our payroll services team, and they had a client who was basically reporting employees as a 1099 status that weren't 1099.
Yeah.
There are very, very specific rules and regulations as to who can be 1099 and who cannot.
Very much so.
And there is a very, very fine line. And unfortunately, this client just didn't know. They didn't know the rules and regulations. And they had been reporting these employees as 1099 for an extended period of time.
Like years?
Yes,
Ooh.
over a couple of years.
Okay.
And it was something where it got flagged.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're in this sea of audits and fees and
IRS, yeah. Yep.
Everybody's coming knocking.
They want their money.
And basically that's where GMS comes in and, okay, this is where we're at. Let's figure out how do we fix it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a very long drawn out process, but at the end of the day, we are going to do our best for the clients. They may not always like our answer. Sometimes at the end of the day, it's going to be hey, they're right.
Right.
We have to fix it now, but we are going to partner with you and help you fix it. We don't want to just leave you out in that sea on, that little life raft. We're going to be like, okay, come on. Like, we're going to, let's get you on the boat. Let's get you guys out of the deep end and figure out what we need to do to fix this.
Yeah, absolutely. That is bad for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, anything like we hear that a lot, even from the front of the end in the sales process, where people are like, oh well, I have 1099s, and we're like, well, are they? And kind of digging in and asking questions about that, because I do feel like a lot of employers they either don't know, or they're they're unaware of like what's required when it comes to 1099 W-2. So. How did GMS help in that situation? If you could be a little bit more specific about, like, maybe do we maybe do an audit of those employees? Do we work through the IRS checklist with them? Do we help transfer them over to W-2s? What does that kind of look like?
So it's a pretty long process, basically getting them to be W-2 employees.
Yep.
Things like W-4s that weren't filled out.
Yep, tax forms.
And you don't realize how all those little pieces of the tax forms, it's like, okay, we got to make sure we get W-4s filled out. And then because with 1099, the taxes are different.
Oh, yeah.
So then it became, we need to now gross these up based on those forms that get filled out so that we can then account for those taxes. Because again, now all of these agencies are looking for their money.
Oh, yeah.
And it's,
Did you have to go retro?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And that was over a few years. So then you have all those fees and penalties because it's amazing when you actually sit down and look at like what the IRS is going to charge for things like that. And unfortunately, yes, you have to pay those, but now that we know it's a thing, okay, like we're going to fix it. We're going to get you guys where you're supposed to be. And then we're going to make sure it's not an issue going forward.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately sometimes you don't realize it's an issue until it happens.
Yeah.
And until somebody comes and shows up and audits and all of a sudden, and unfortunately it was something where, they weren't with GMS at the time and, they didn't have that partner to advise and be like, hey, I really don't think these employees are 1099.
Right.
And you don't know what you don't know, but again, the IRS doesn't care.
They don't care.
I wish they did, but they don't.
No, they're like, we just want our money.
Yeah.
So if you can give that to this, that would be great. But that, once again, just having like the peace of mind of having a Sam and like Sam's team to help with, questions about, hey, should this be a 1099? Is this a W-2? How do I know? How can I educate myself and be a little bit better in the future about being able to code these employees better? So, love that. What should employers what should they pay attention to when they look at maybe a payroll software, an HRIS system for managing their employees? What should they, like when it comes to like compliance and things like that, what should they be asking when they're looking at partners or vendor partners for these things?
So again, comes back to the communication piece.
Yeah.
We don't know what you don't tell us.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather my client be honest with me and me go, wait a second, what's been happening? So that I know what's going on. If
Yes.
I don't know, I can't fix what I don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And if a client comes to me and tells me, and it's like, okay, let's sit down. It may take, I've had 2-hour meetings with clients and going, okay, now that I know this is a thing, let's go through it piece by piece and figure out what that means in the system, what that means for you and your employees. And it can take a little bit to unravel, and it's a lot of puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
And then it's, okay, now I have to take all those puzzle pieces and fit it in the software and make sure the software is going to function and do what you need it to do. And that can look very, very different for every single client. There is no one client that's going to look like another client because they all have their individual needs and specific. This one works in Ohio, this one's in California.
Right.
Very different labor laws.
Yes. For sure. And I love that your team takes the time to like get to know each client and like what's unique about their specific payroll situation and how they pay their employees. And you kind of get familiar with it, and I'm sure it helps you guys to like spot the errors too when they come through. And that just makes a better employee experience as well for the employees, because there's nothing worse than like getting paid the wrong amount, right? And I just love that. So I think that if you are a small business listening to this podcast, please, please, please ask, what is that communication like when it comes to your payroll provider, when it comes to your support team? Do you have a Sam? Do you have like Sam's team who's going to be able to answer questions, be communicative with you, be responsive when you have an emergency? Things like that are really, really important. So look at, your service level agreements, look at, what that communication is really going to look like from the back end, not just how much am I actually paying for this, right?
Yeah. And it's clients don't see the background of, okay, I might not know the answer. It happens. At the end of the day, we don't know everything, but that's part of where our team comes in. We have no problem reaching out to managers or even, sometimes it's another team here at GMS. Again, account managers, benefits, retirement. You might end up seeing a client email thread where there's 8 different people from different departments on it, purely because we want to get to the root of the problem and make sure it's correct and it's running the way it should. And, if we don't have the answers, we're going to do everything we can to find them for you.
Yeah. And that's so amazing. I love that so much. And that's in larger companies, there's silos. I feel like GMS does such a great job in being cross-communicate. Like we communicate cross-departmentally so much here. And if you ever come to our Richfield office, I hope you do. And just walk the departments. They're so collaborative. Everyone, sits close to each other. We all talk and eat in the same area. So once again, just a really great thing to have in a partner, for sure. Any success stories you could share? Anything? Let's end on a good note. So we talked about the horror stories, but anything like good that we were maybe able to fix for a client or, turn something around for them?
I think a big thing is sometimes clients, once they're with GMS, they want to take on more because now they don't have a lot of those worries where they're like, I have no idea how to handle this.
Right.
So things like prevailing wage. I've had clients that have come in and they have never done a prevailing wage job in their life, and they get an offer and they're like, now what? And, and they don't realize, something as simple as, prevailing wage usually pays at a lot higher of a rate than a regular payroll because it's part of the contract. And just, sitting down with them and being like, hey, go and speak with the manager on the project. Make sure you're getting your rate sheets so that we can make sure we get the rate set up correctly. Yep. Then it also becomes the piece of what does that look like? Because sometimes it's based off of, apprentice versus, all the different positions they might be working. And it becomes then, do we set that up at an employee level? Do we set that up at the client level? And figuring out all those little pieces that go into a complex project And it's also something where they then have to turn in reports on that, and if they're not right, it's a bigger mess to clean up. So having that peace of mind of knowing, like, okay, I can take this to the payroll team, and yeah, we may go back and forth, say, hey, you need to go double check this with the project manager, but we have that experience to be able to, like, okay,
Give them
this
direction.
this is what we need from you to get this to work correctly, so we can then create the reporting that you need. And then also, it's that tax piece. It's, we do a lot of trades. And a lot of people don't realize that, okay, this employee worked in, let's say, Richfield, Akron, and, Fairlawn, all in the same day. They don't realize they need to be tracking those hours in each of those localities and then paying taxes.
Yep.
And it's having that piece of, okay, I can tell by your field that odds are these guys are going to different places.
Right.
And either then showing them how to enter it, because there are some, bless the clients that do it, there are some clients
They do manual entry?
hand key. I have one, and I've told her so many times, I'm like, are you sure
There's a
you don't
better
want an
way.
import? Like, do you want to try to build something? And it's just the way their timekeeping system works.
Right.
She's like, it's more work for me to do that. She's like, I'm just going to hand key it. And I'm like, okay, like, this is how you do it. But I'm like,
Bless her heart.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
like, all the more power to you,
Good for her.
because that is a lot.
That is a lot.
But that's also sometimes, getting them connected with the time and attendance team and being like, hey, this will make your job easier. The employees are punching into the project, the location.
Yeah.
So then all you have to do is put that data in and make sure that it looks right. Because unfortunately, sometimes employees, they
Put
just
the wrong project
yeah.
code in, or
they're just
for sure.
punching in because, it's 7 a.m. and they're half asleep.
Yeah.
And, you look at it, you're like, you were only on that job for 4 hours on Monday. Why are you punching into it at 2 o'clock on a Friday
Right.
kind of thing? But yeah, getting the time and attendance piece, or build it, if they want to keep their own keeping system, building an import that's going to read what that spits out to make sure we're getting all of that data. Because it takes somebody seeing your truck on a job and going, hey, you're not, paying taxes to this locality. Why
Right.
aren't you?
Yeah.
And then suddenly, we look into it, and it's a lot of money
So
very
you're not
quickly.
compliant, and then you're like, oh,
So
this
yeah,
isn't fun now.
it's one of those, it's just, those success stories of just being a partner and making sure that we're doing everything we can to keep them compliant. It's not perfect. Sometimes, that communication piece, if we don't know, we can't help.
Right.
But they're, those clients have gotten really good at just saying, hey, this is what I have, and now what?
Yes, and I love that you can be that resource for them, for them to be like, now what? And I think another piece of that too is you see so many different clients in the same industry, and you can kind of sometimes be a little bit more proactive with your questions of like, hey, should we be doing job costing or job coding? Should we be doing X, Y, and Z, and kind of be able to guide them maybe in the right direction as well with those questions.
Yeah, and it's ever changing, and it's, clients are constantly changing. They're bringing in new employees. They're taking on new projects.
Yeah.
They're, sometimes they're buying out smaller companies, all those different pieces of, what do we need to do to accomplish this?
Yeah.
And it really, like, every client is so different. So it's, I might have seen this piece from this client, this piece from this client, but then you still have that extra unique piece of, what is specific to you. And we want to know that.
Yeah.
If we don't know, we genuinely, what we don't know, and we can't help with. So it's
Right.
always, I would rather you tell me way too much information, and then I have to pick through it and figure out what is actually, like, important to what you're doing, than you to not tell me.
Right.
Is, then I'm like, oh, wait, what's been happening this whole time?
Let's dive into this a little bit more.
Like, can we have a meeting? Because now I'm worried.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I always ask a question at the end, and it's, what would you wish that small business owners really understood about partnering with a PEO, partnering with your team, and what advice would you give them?
I think really it's that team aspect. And I know we've talked about it, but it's just, having a PEO that's a team and that works together. I don't think I go through a day where I don't talk to people from other departments, from my own department. It's really is we are a team that's here to support you. And it's also, it comes down to, we want you to be successful.
Yeah.
I never want a client to not be successful. My number one goal, even if that makes me seem like the bad guy, is to make sure my client does well and is successful. And it really, just coming in and working with a PEO, it takes a lot of those everyday pressures that, having an account manager who can help with those HR concerns.
Yeah.
Having a payroll person who is reviewing your payroll and helping you get through that process quicker so that you can then get back to doing your everyday job.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times that it's, we work with a construction company, they're shorthanded, and that person running payroll is the owner, and he or she is trying to get back out into the field. And so it's one of those, it's like, okay, if you can just get your payroll to me, I can, get you processed and help take off that weight of then having to make sure, like, oh my gosh, I'll pester you. I'm your new best friend. If you forget to run payroll, you're gonna get like an email and a call from me going, hey,
gently nudging you.
Yeah, and it's, some of these clients are super busy, and it's just having that person that just kind of, a little bit of a push, little nudge to be like, hey, you forgot to do payroll today. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh my gosh, what time is it? I've even had clients be like, it's Tuesday. And I'm like, no, it's Wednesday.
You're like, wrong day, but we will need it today. So just letting you know.
Yeah. And it's also, sometimes there's just that understanding of, hey, they forgot.
Yeah.
And it's that moment of, oh my gosh, I forgot. What are my options?
Yeah.
Because it's, when you're doing it on your own, you don't always know your options.
You don't.
And it's, we're willing to work with clients. If you tell me, I'm going to work with you. And it's, sometimes it's just, hey, can you get it to me by 5 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
Or whatever the case may be. Or, sometimes funding issues happen. They're waiting on somebody to pay them for them to then pay their employees,
Right.
where it's, okay, can you do it, first thing in the morning? Because they can see the money in their account, but it hasn't cleared yet.
Right.
Call your bank. Is the money going to clear late tonight, or is it going to, and figure out a plan from there. And, it's that partnership and that constant like communication, working together and just problem solving the everyday things that they run into on a daily basis. And you don't even think about, because you're just on autopilot and you're just trying to survive.
Absolutely. Small business owners, right? Yeah. And you got to love that too, because a lot of them are working in their business and giving them the peace of mind and the capacity to have more time to do that. For sure. Well, Sam, it was a pleasure having you on today. Thank you so much. To all of our listeners, thank you for joining us this week, and we hope you stop in to see the next one. Thank you for tuning into the People's Podcast. We hope you found today's discussion helpful. Stay tuned for more insights in our next episode. For more expert guidance and resources on small business management, PEOs, and more, give our podcast a follow. Find us on social media or visit us at groupmanagement.com. That's groupmgmt.com. We're dedicated to helping small businesses everywhere make their operations simpler, safer, and stronger.